Hey y'all, my name is Wyatt. I started my career in workforce development with the state of Kentucky in 2010. That experience ignited a deep passion for manufacturing within me. I started this show hoping to raise more awareness around the bright outlook manufacturing careers have. Join me as I sit down with some of the manufacturing industry's most successful changemakers and learn how they're partnering people with technology. It's time to give people more meaningful work. This is Workforce 4.0. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Workforce 4.0. So excited to be coming once again from the Schneider Electric Innovation Summit here in the beautiful Las Vegas at the Fontainebleau Hotel. I am joined today with our very special guest and one of my neighbors, y'all, because he is also, well, he's in Tennessee, which isn't too far. But I have Agustin.
That's right.
Yes, the SVP of Supply Chain at Schneider Electric. And Agustin, you are so gracious to come on to my podcast today and talk a little bit more about the future of work, technology, and how the supply chain is one of the most innovative spaces when you look at future roles and development of roles in the manufacturing sector. But for those that are not as familiar with your wonderfulness that you're going to share with us today, can you just give everybody a more formal introduction of yourself and what you do for?
You bet. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and with everybody today. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And so to put it a little bit in perspective, I mean, Schneider Electric, it's a very large company. We're very proud of the fact that we are considered the most sustainable company in the world by Time Magazine and by Corporate Knights. So we believe very strongly in sustainability in the large scheme of things, right? Sustainability being not only environment and efficiency, but it's also how we deal with the future of the workforce and so on. So we are a multinational company. A bigger portion of our footprint is in North America, and we are really committed to the region in multiple ways. So we are investing quite heavily on everything related to manufacturing in the region. We believe in the future of manufacturing in the U.S., and we just recently announced a very significant investment in continuing the expansion of our footprint in North America. And just to put a little bit kind of in context for those who are not familiar with Schneider, we basically focus on, becoming the technical or the tech partner of energy efficiency for our customers. So what we do is we really look at end-to-end energy production, management, distribution, and automation and control of factories, buildings, residential market, and so on, and we try to drive progress and efficiency for everybody. We believe that energy, of course, is the future of growth, and we believe that energy is a right. And in that context, we try to do that in the most efficient way. So that's kind of what we do. We have roughly about 40 factories in North America alone, and we've been committed to the region for about 100 years already. So super excited to be here.
That is really exciting. And Schneider has done some really awesome things there in the South. And I think that we were talking a little bit about that before we started recording. You just opened a plant there in Tennessee.
That is correct. So in Middle Tennessee, it's a small place called Mount Juliet, and we just opened the most recent factory in that area. And actually the headquarters of the supply chain for Schneider Electric North America is actually in Nashville, Tennessee. So we're really committed to the region and to the area.
Awesome. I love that. Are you all hiring for that plant?
Yes, we are. And everybody's welcome to apply.
I love that. And I'm assuming at the website, schneiderelectric.com.
That's right.
So if you're looking for a new opportunity or listening to the podcast today, this is a great opportunity if you're in that Tennessee area.
Yeah.
Schneider's a great company to work for.
I think so. And, we are one of the best employers in North America. So definitely excited to welcome everybody.
Love that. Well, Agustin, I've got to ask you a question. It's kind of a serious question. Are you going to bear with me here?
Yes, please.
Okay. I got to know.
Bring it.
I got to know. So if we're in Nashville, right, and we're going to go on Broadway or like around Broadway, and like we're going to go to a karaoke bar. I just want you to picture it in your mind.
Yes.
Just us, at a karaoke bar, right? downtown Nashville. All the buses and
I can
all
see
the
that.
party, all the things. We go to this karaoke bar, we sing karaoke. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Definitely Elvis.
Nice.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
I guess Can't Stop Falling in Love with You. That would be my song.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good one. That's such a sweet
Is
one.
it? I think so, right?
Yeah.
It is big fan.
Absolutely. Awesome. Do you karaoke often? We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to do that at some point. Well, that's fun. That's my typical icebreaker question for the show, and just kind of to learn a little bit more about your personality. But let's actually get into the conversation here today. And let's talk about the future of work as it relates to the supply chain. You know, a couple of years ago, there was a few prolific job descriptions that came out, and I believe that was kind of this initiative done by Deloitte, maybe, where they kind of forecasted the future of work and the future of jobs in manufacturing, and really how Industry 4.0 supports, you know, the future of work. And one of those was really directed at supply chain and supply chain managers and coordinators. They projected that where traditionally supply chain planners and coordinators and managers were traditionally always going to be like really focused on inventory, it was really going to be more focused on the data of real-time things and the accessibility of that data. Have you seen any of those things kind of come to fruition over the past 5 years since this report was?
Absolutely, without a doubt, actually. So, look, we firmly in Schneider, we firmly believe that, the future is on electrification and automation. We have very strong capabilities in analytics, and supply chain is becoming really a cornerstone for every company these days, right? So it's growing. I think it's an area where we see a lot of opportunities, possibilities for growth, but certainly things have changed dramatically over the past, 3 or 4 years, and we're excited about what's the future going to look like, right? So just to give you probably a little bit more color to that. So we believe that, people are people, and leadership and how you treat people in a respectful, sustainable manner. We see the Schneider core belief around sustainability is one of the main attractive factors to join Schneider, and we're doubling down on that. However, we are, getting ready for a world where, this end-to-end analytics, data, automation, is working, and we believe that we are probably ahead of many in really end-to-end automation, analytics, and data, right? And, talking to some people recently, data is the new gold, right? As they say, we're spending a very significant amount of time in really building that data with the right level of quality, and we see already, entire product lines to be end-to-end automated planning from forecast to shipment. So without a doubt, the way we are, hiring and approaching the development of capabilities in our factories has changed. Fundamentals and principles will never change, right? Sustainability, quality, safety. However, the core competencies have changed quite dramatically, and AI, analytics, digitization, and automation are really at the core of what we are really building in our factories. So without a doubt, that has come to fruition, and it's only going to be more and more moving forward.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the case that we've seen kind of moving forward as the technology has just become more available and the data from everything has become more available. And now we have AI in the mix. This has got to be fun for you in demand forecasting, I would imagine. But how is Schneider Electric taking AI and applying that, or maybe the concept of algorithms, to deliver better customer experience, better delivery times, lead time, shorter lead times, things like that? Is there anything that you've gotten from that AI data that you've looked at and you're like, wow, this is
fresh and brand new.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it's becoming more and more, and without a doubt, it will be our key strategic advantage moving forward. So we have, we're lucky. I think we started a little bit ahead of the curve. We have a full end-to-end automation. We go from product to parts. We have full visibility on demand at the part level. Most of our planning today is done through analytics and AI. We have algorithms that tells us what is the right level of stock, what are the level of lead times that we gotta have based on customer demand, the sensitivity of lead time changes to customer demand. And we've gone as far as understanding what would be the impact or the best optimized model for a particular part number with tariffs and trade compliance.
Right.
So, and we're just scratching the surface, right? I think the key though is having the right data, right? So we approach AI as a cultural change for us. Many of us that have been in supply chain for a while, we remember when we started with Lean and Six Sigma, right?
Yeah.
So we're approaching AI the same way. We are creating sort of black belts and master black belts around AI and understanding that, and really creating an ingrained culture towards AI and data management and analytics. We already see an incredible amount of efficiency and resilience coming out of it, a lot of intelligence, and we believe that's going to be very transformational moving forward. And Schneider, it's really, we believe, ahead of the game on that one. So hopefully we'll continue to capitalize that. So it's an augmented environment where, people drive a lot of value in that context. Mm-hmm. The value that they create is different.
So that's my thing with AI. And like when I'm thinking about smaller companies that are, let's say you've got a plant and they've got 500 employees, right? Or maybe they have 1,000 employees, and that's, they've got maybe like one plant, right? So the small to medium enterprises, when you're looking at them and, they have traditionally always struggled with adopting technology anyway, mm-hmm. right? And you're kind of talking about all the AI. I mean, this is kind of having the same effect, I feel like, on those plants and plant leaders that robots did 10 years ago. Because you're talking to them and they're just like, this is how we've done it for 50 years. Is there anything that you would say to them to maybe persuade them to think about adopting AI or other forms of technology to implement, and like how they can get started where it's not so overbearing for them, like where their value in the data sets that they're looking for mm-hmm. could be derived from?
Well, I mean, I'll give you my opinion. Of course, most of my career I've been in large companies, so I will say these, without necessarily having a lot of context. What I can say is, I mean, in a way, we operate as a small company, right? We go plant to plant. We do definitely have, of course, an end-to-end visibility. We manage about 500,000 SKUs every given year. So, and we have a very, very large and complex supply chain. So for us, it was not an option to not do it. But what I can tell you is we do see a very rapid payback at the plant level when we do it. And look, I would contend that I don't think it's an option anymore. Oh. I mean, it's a must. And it doesn't have to be cumbersome. Of course, in Schneider, we have solutions that are scalable, but not only Schneider, I'm sure there's others. But I think the payback we've seen in our case is really fast. We think that technologies today are very easy to adopt. And honestly, it hasn't been difficult, and we are actually quite amazed with the level of adoption. When I compare to things like Lean and Six Sigma, I would say the adoption level is faster and easier. Yeah, I think so. That's what we've seen anyways. I think people are recognizing the need. And so, again, just from a benefit standpoint, I don't think it's as difficult. I think it's very intuitive. There are companies like Schneider that can help, smaller companies to embrace. Payback normally is really fast. and engagement and adoption level is easy there, and yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated, and I don't think it's an option. I think we are obviously at the beginning of it, where we see already real impact. I can only imagine what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years, and those companies do not start with having the right discipline around data and data management.
Yeah.
I think they're going to probably be left.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's just going to be super hard to compete when you have companies that can generate the real-time data.
Yes.
So if you're looking at a small company, right, and we'll say you've got an automotive supplier.
Right.
Maybe there's 700 employees, and they make parts, they're a supplier, and maybe they're looking at how to manage like the supply of materials. Like we'll say like aluminum billet or something really random, right? What is something that you could advise plant leadership at that size of a company that maybe they're intimidated by AI, they don't know where to start, on how they could leverage AI for an easy win, build that confidence, and start on their digital transformation journey?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So I guess, again, AI can be looked into different dimensions, right? So we've been talking about planning. We think planning is going to be probably the area where the biggest transformation is going to come. We are seeing definitely places where we believe very strongly that we can just go full automated AI from forecast to shipment. But not only that, right? I mean, one of the areas where we see a lot of new, startups working on AI, which may be an area, is quality, right? Quality matters a lot in automotive and of course for us as well. So, we use AI to analyze a product, identify, the most typical failure modes, and there are current AIs that will tell you for that particular failure mode, what is the standard solution, right? And, it's very powerful. It's very simple, right? It's a concept we've had in automotive called FMEA.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're
Yes.
familiar with it. So we now have FMEAs done by AI fully, right? And that's an area where we see a ton of possibilities, and it's very simple to start. And that's probably an area where companies can get familiar with how AI works, how the prompts work, how data is captured. So my recommendation is probably start there. Payback is very simple, easy, right? So I would say that. The second thing is, I'm sure that even if it's a small company, have to be connected to the suppliers or the customers' systems, right? So the reality is that a lot of new systems, including Schneider's for that matter, have the capability to work with unstructured data or data that historically is not standard across multiple ERPs. Now there are, AIs that connect all of that. So I will say planning, quality, those are areas where we see relatively simple and cost-effective implementations that should be quite easy to implement even in a smaller company.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I just kind of was wondering, some of those smaller companies that, I mean, they're already being faced with so many supply chain challenges, right? From your perspective at Schneider Electric, what does that current landscape look like? I mean, we had 2020, and that was havoc on the supply chain.
Right.
And now we're dealing with tariffs. And that's been a little hectic on the supply chain. But what are some things that you've learned over the past 5 years in dealing with some of these challenges?
Well, I think there's probably two key learnings, right? Resilience, it's absolutely critical, right? We realized that, we had to have this, possibility to have the critical offers protected somehow, all the way down to a part level. So just to be super practical, hopefully can add some value to all our, everybody that is listening to us. We in Schneider, we use two processes that are working quite well for us. One is called Power of Two. And what that means is we analyze all our critical offers to the part level, and we try to have two identical production lines for that offer sitting in probably two distinct geographies with two independent supplies, right? So that's proven to be quite effective for us when managing this uncertainty, right? So, and I think, the geopolitics, environmental factors are just going to get more and more complicated. So having that capability to protect your supply is becoming more and more important, right? So one of the key leverage or levers that we use, that we pulled throughout this tariffs equation is that, right? So we were capable of managing that resilience and that capability of having this power of two to say, okay, that part now goes to this country or that country, and try to optimize to the best of our ability that. So, and we have models that give us that, right? As I was explaining before, AI now, almost with a push of a button, tells us, okay, with that power of two, you're better off using this supply versus that supply to optimize your cost. So I think that's been the biggest learning on something that we probably were ready, on something that we probably were not as ready, that we are working towards is flexibility, right? We probably were too focused on specific technologies, and now we're working on production lines that are much more agnostic and that give us the capability to run different models in the same production line. That gives us that flexibility. So I think resilience, we were, I think, well prepared through our power of two. Now flexibility is changing the game for us. And the way we're approaching it is by, a multi-product production lines, which is what we're working on right now. And, we're lucky in Schneider, we have a lot of offers for automation and control that gives us that flexibility.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine being in your shoes over the past year or 5 years. I feel like that would have been super stressful. Was there any time during this period where there was any kind of reflection on, oh my gosh, like panic, what are we going to do? Anything that kept you up at night specifically?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely, right? I mean, I don't know if panic is the right word, but we definitely were, we were, they kept us up at night. I mean, I think uncertainty, right? I mean, for all of us that we are in supply chain, we know that, we want predictability, right? We want boring supply chain, right? Where we know the output, the inputs, and the forecast. We love forecast, right? That's how we plan. I mean, that's just not the case anymore. So I think, again, being flexible, adaptable, having this capability to react and respond has been the biggest lesson learned, right? I mean, look at what happened this year, right, with tariffs. Who would have guessed, right? In November of last year.
We did not.
We did not. So we sized our capacity there based on a complete unknown. So I think that's really the biggest learning over the past years for supply chain, and I'm sure that many will agree with me, is, it's only going to get more and more complicated, more and more complex. And so we are focusing not in things to be easier, but in us to be much more adaptable to what's going on. And we do believe that digitalization and analytics are really of great help for us.
Yeah. Well, I did some research, just a little bit of research on you before you came on the podcast. And I saw kind of your own work history. Are you, given, where you've been in the past, are you glad to be going through this major global transition with a company like Schneider that is at the forefront of that innovation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic. Again, of course, I'm biased, but Schneider is a great company that provides a lot of learning opportunities. And I think from a supply chain standpoint, again, we have a resilient supply chain. And again, we're super lucky, right? And we have products that we use and that we know how to use very much. And we're here to help. And in any way, shape, or form, regardless of the size of the company, I think in Schneider Electric we have the possibility. But I definitely encourage everybody to really explore that further.
Excellent. Yeah, it is Schneider's leading the way in innovation and technology and data. How are they doing with the culture?
I mean, likewise, right? I mean, Schneider is without a doubt a people-oriented culture. We, of course, focus on digital and electrification and efficiency like everybody else. But, the culture in Schneider is one where, people orientation and really that environment that creates innovation and fosters collaboration is a reality, right? And I think, we are true to our values and principles like sustainability and diversity and inclusion. It's at the core of who we are. I've been in a few companies, not many, but a few, and I don't think I've ever found a company that, focuses more in inclusion and in creating a respectful environment where everybody feels, a part of a winning team and in a place where you can just be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's the best bit, right?
I think so.
Have you been in situations like that before where you feel like you haven't had made the freedom to just be yourself in companies?
For sure, right? I mean, not all companies are the same, and I think cultures are different, and of course, that has happened to me in the past.
Yeah. I mean, everybody that I've spoken with has really talked, amazing about the culture here at Schneider.
Absolutely.
And, I don't think that it's any coincidence that they value their culture and they want to lead in culture the same way that they want to lead in technology or data or sustainability or innovation of any kind. Do you think that there's probably a connection there with just wanting to be the best at everything, or wanting to drive that standard? I feel like it's hard for a company to do one and not successfully.
Absolutely. No, I think this is like, Gandhi said, right? If you don't strive for doing it well in all aspects, you fail in all of them. So I do believe that Schneider is, by no means, like every company, we're not perfect, but we are pretty darn close, right? I mean, we try. I think the leadership cares. Our CEO is an incredible leader that really drives a culture where, performance and efficiency are at the core of what we do, but also, care for people and care for the planet is principles that are undeniable. And, before this job, I had the privilege to be the Chief Sustainability Officer of the company. And, when I had the opportunity to talk about it, I was said, I don't think there are many companies in the world that have the honesty and the congruent approach that Schneider has to their values on how they live and breathe sustainability and people orientation, while, there's this spirit of efficiency and willingness to win.
I love that. Well, I've got one last question for you before we cut today, but if you have time, just a few minutes.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. What are your predictions for the future of work in manufacturing?
Oh my God. Well, I'll give you my 2 cents, right, for what it's worth. I think, again, value will continue to be created by people, as always. I think there are some things that are just going to remain critical and important: leadership, respect, principle-based thinking and leading everybody. I think that's just going to continue as long as we have people, which I think is still going to be for many years to come. But the technical content of it is going to change dramatically, right? When in the past we needed people that needed the knowledge of how to plan a part, how to understand, heuristic modeling for, calculating safety stocks. I think instead of that, we're gonna, or a quality person that had to know how to create the right failure mode.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Balancing lines and things like that. I think in the future, what we'll need is people that know how to operate and prompt, drive the right prompts to get the right outcomes out of AI. I do believe that a lot of the jobs that we're going to need, again, it's going to be a combination of leadership and production and discipline, as always. But the technical part is going to change dramatically, and it's definitely going to be on how to operate AI in a much more, in a smarter way.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, me too. Me too. And I think that's going to benefit all of us.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Well, Agustin, I really appreciate your time
Thank you.
today.
Thank
For
you.
those that are listening, is there a good way for them to connect? Maybe link.
LinkedIn is definitely the right place. Absolutely. Welcome everybody there.
Excellent. Well, I'll be sure to put that information in the
Thank
show
you.
notes. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Workforce 4.0. We'll see you all again next week.